pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Stewardship Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at the Southborough website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So it is 6:34 and I am calling the meeting to order. So good evening, everyone. And our first item tonight is approving the minutes. Thank you, Jim, for getting those out to us. Did anyone have any corrections or additions for Jim?
I think we need to do a roll call for
Oh, roll call. So this is Joyce Greenleaf, Jim Gorse.
Present.
Catherine Craddock McKee.
Present.
Jenny Pete.
Present.
Freddie.
Here.
And we also have Melissa.
I'm here.
I don't think she's part of the roll call, though.
Well, she's.
We'd love to have her, though.
We're glad you're here, Melissa. So thank you, Kat, for that. I don't always remember to do that. So any changes or additions, edits, corrections on the minutes? Yes, Kat.
Yes, I had one update for the minutes where under other business, where we talk about trail names in town forest, possible public walk to discuss names and to get to know the property. I would add this initiative is postponed until spring, which is a better time to invite the community to visit the forest or some version of that.
Got it.
Thank you. And I vote to keep Bernie in there. Just
I don't think we can.
okay.
I missed it.
Any other corrections or additions? I already emailed Jim earlier. I didn't see anything.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended on the date of. Someone fill that in.
December 21st or today's date.
No, December 21st.
Yes.
I'll start over. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 21st as amended.
Have a second?
I'll second. Kat.
All in favor? Kat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Freddie?
Yes.
And I also vote in the affirmative. So the motion passes. Thank you, Jim, for the minutes. And the next item up is we had an inquiry that I forwarded, oh gosh, maybe a week or so ago, 10 days ago. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly. 2 weeks ago at the most, from a
Kim Berry is in the waiting room.
Yeah, do you want me to move her up, Joyce?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. She's coming in.
Welcome, Kim. We're just getting to your item on the agenda.
Hey.
I'm Joyce, and I'm the chair. We had an inquiry from Ms. Berry for her graduate program where she is pursuing a degree, a graduate degree in wildlife conservation and management, and also has a background in the arts. So she's inquiring about her need to fulfill a final capstone project to complete her degree with a connection with an external partner, and has offered to work with us should we have a project appropriate, such as something on outreach or an educational program. And as a Southborough resident is familiar with the Breakneck Hill property, I'm presuming. So I'm hoping everyone had a chance to read her letter that I had forwarded. She's also reached out to the Conservation Commission, and I'm sure others as well. So did anyone have some ideas that were prompted by Ms. Berry's letter? Oh, yes, Freddie, your hand is up.
It's waving. Hi, I'm Freddie. You can't see me, but I can see you. And thank you for coming tonight. And I found the proposal very intriguing. And the answer is, it said, do we have a project? And I think the hard point is, well, which one? Because we have lots. I think that could fit what you're trying to do. But I think we need to know more about what I would like the committee to know more about is what the deliverable looks like, what your timeline is, so we can craft which of our many projects we would suggest to you, and which also I think most important is which ones resonate with you and what type of work. Because I'm thinking offhand, we have a grassland bird project that, you know, we did the clear cut of the invasive species. Were you familiar with the project at all? It was a total, the back of the property, 30 something acres was overgrown with Oriental bittersweet, got a federal grant, did a clear cut, and then we're managing some of the land as grasslands for declining species of grassland birds. And we focus on managing the land for that, but we haven't been in recent years as focused on the actual species there. And, you know, I think that's something we can revisit as a committee, because we got really busy working on our newer endeavor, which is the declining species of pollinators. And that also has opportunities for a project. We have a connection with Dr. Robert G. Gear, who's doing research at Breakneck Hill. We have multiple pollinator gardens that were specifically focusing on the declining species of pollinators, particularly two species of bumblebees that are headed towards extirpation from the state, if not, you know, extinction. And so we've had really good success. So that's exciting. But I'm also, you know, also the other committee members may have things, but, you know, if I don't want to forget about the birds, which sort of was our first focus here, which, and I don't even have real ideas on that. There's so many ways to go in. Signage, brochures, interpretive signage is something that's, and then the committee hasn't even decided what we want to do with that type of projects, but those are my two big ones. Of course, if you're interested in vernal pools, and, you know, there's all kinds of things the committee might be interested in. So that's it for me. If that's not enough, I'll find some more.
So does any other committee member want to offer up any remarks or ideas before we give Ms. Berry a chance to tell us a little more about her timeline and the kind of deliverables she needs to meet her program requirements?
I mean, I think that those are the big ones that it, you know, where it seems like, well, from the little we know that, you know, she might be able to help us. But I think it would be good to hear like what you're interested in and what, I don't know, what are your skills or mediums that you work with or whatever.
So Ms. Berry, can you fill us in on some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an arts background. My arts background is in theatrical design. So I have covered and worked with everything from textiles to painting, all different kinds of painting, watercolors, acrylics, a little bit of oil painting, all different kinds of crafts work. I used to do a little bit of metalworking even. And recently I've been really into doing kind of repurposed art. So making art out of like trash or, like decaying leaves or really just anything you can find. So I make all different kinds of art. And as for the project itself, the goal of the project is it's kind of an open-ended project for a graduate project, which is really nice. Unlike your normal graduate project, our college kind of just wanted us to partner with a group or a community that we has kind of a goal in mind that aligns with ours and just sort of create something in our field. And so my field is sustainability education. And the big issue that I currently see is that a lot of people have kind of what I would call science anxiety. And they want to talk about science, but they don't really know how to connect with it. And so I think art is a really accessible way to do that. So for the projects you were talking about, like it could be anything like you said, making brochures or how do you make fun, interactive, like bee houses or bee gardens with like repurposed art that people could come see, that could get the community excited about it. Or even, natural art that's kind of made to incorporate its surroundings so that things could grow on it and it could kind of bloom and become even more beautiful over time, to include plants as well. And so it's that kind of idea. I have roughly a 14-week timeline. So it would hit perfectly to have the end result or a finished result of some sort right around Earth Day, April 22nd or the week of April 22nd. And I'm pretty flexible within that timeline of when things need to be delivered or not delivered. So I can work with the commission's need on that. So, if it's kind of like if you would want to get the ball rolling on something and immediately start right away, I can do that. Or if you would want to hold off and start on a project that's more geared towards the spring, because I know that like things get a lot easier to do with a lot of the landscaping and stuff outside when it's a little warmer and not so snowy, then I can do that as well.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? We now have a sense of the timeline, some of her skills. And the deliverable itself can be a whole variety of things.
And can I get clarity on the timeline? So you mentioned it would, 14 weeks from now, but it could extend further out if it needed to, if it fit within the scope of a project that we had. And how far out could it go? Do you have an endpoint?
My end cap for my graduate program, so I need something to turn into them by that just basically clarifies either I have a solid deliverable that I have given to you, or if I, talk to them and say, hey, I'm working on a deliverable, but they have a date past my like term date. Here's what I have is May 7th, I believe. But a lot of times, like I just said, they are very flexible that if I say, hey, I have this much of my deliverable, but they would want a finished product by, say like June even, they would say like, great, as long as you have, as close to the finished product as you can that we can see, that's great.
Thank you. That's great.
I'm trying to remember when we started planting the Ecology Research Garden. Do you remember when we did I know we started like the land clearing at the end of April, but were we planting in May with shrubs and stuff?
Gosh, was it that early?
I don't think you would start any earlier than that, but I don't remember.
So that's one of the issues with plant-based materials, because I had a great idea, but I don't know. Shrubs are a little different though, or trees. Do you have a budget, or do you have to fundraise, or is this just more not a material-based project?
I do not really have a budget. It's kind of come and go. I could fundraise if I needed to. If there is sort of an allotted budget that the commission has that I could pull a little bit from here and there, I could do that as well. But the idea is hopefully, in my mind at least, to be able to not really need a budget and kind of repurpose everything and use either scrap wood, scrap materials. I know that a lot of the residents of Southborough kind of do, like swap exchanges, and will kind of, give people things if they're looking for it. So just kind of repurposing and truly using the method of recycle as much as you possibly can.
So do you want to hear two ideas I just had?
Sure.
Just the committee. One is kind of out there, but we've talked about creating a living fence for protecting the meadow or something from the deer. That involves planting, but part of that is I've seen these. All right, so here I go. Playhouses made out of willows. You plant willows, but getting the willows of the right size is problematic because we only use natives, and you need them of the right size that you can, bend and mold. But then it would be an interactive thing where we could have, kids, like a tunnel for kids, be getting kids to play on the. I mean, it's an exciting project. I don't know if it fits in with your timeline or the doable. And I do think we have some funds available to do this type of, as long as it's conservation work that we, as a committee can propose. But that was one idea. I don't know how feasible that is. But have you seen these? They sell kits actually, but unfortunately the kits are not native shrubs, or not native willows. But we need more willows, so it would be great for having the early blooming willows that our pollinators need, and also having something we haven't done before, which is creating like a play structure for kids. So I think that's kind of cool. The other thing I was just thinking of when you're talking about repurposing, I have this need, we have a need for a, it's not quite a cold frame, but some sort of a base for putting our winter sow plant buckets in, and creating that. You were talking about repurposing, but that we need like sooner rather than later. So here I go. I have one that's like maybe too fast for you, and one that's too big or far out. But those are just ideas. And I think, for me, if you hear what we're talking about, we could maybe even have a walk with you at Breakneck Hill to see where things resonate with you. How soon do you have to have a decision made on what you're doing?
I do not need to have a decision terribly soon. I want to say that my kind of cap date is 2 weeks from now. Let me double check that.
While you do that, let's see if any other, so both those ideas that Freddie put on the table sound terrific, and both would be oriented more toward the bee side of the kind of ideas where, when we're saying we do a lot for grassland birds, and then we've got this ecology garden. So I'm wondering if anything.
I had one other thing I forgot.
Oh,
and I just, and then I'll be quiet. But in the upper pollinator garden, the hummingbird garden, I've wanted to have a vine. There's the native honeysuckle vine, And to do that, we kind of need some sort of a trellis or something up there. And I don't know if that fits into your repurposing stuff art, and then have it be something that it's not the right bird, but it does attract hummingbirds. So that was I don't know if that's big enough for what you need to do, or how you could, include that with interpretive signage or interpretive brochure on the pollinator habitat. So, you could take bits and pieces of everything I just kind of threw out there and put together what you need for a full project. But going back to the birds, don't we have a kestrel box going up?
Yeah, the scout has that, and he's gonna do that. Yeah, so were you thinking some?
I don't know if there's something around that, or about bobolinks, or I personally haven't had my head wrapped around the grassland birds beyond trying to create the habitat. We haven't do one bird walk a year. We haven't really been focusing on that so much.
Yeah, I was thinking about the bird side of things too, and we will be having a new kiosk, and it might be nice to have better looking kind of signage and things for that's educational, but that is, that's kind of a low bar. Like, that isn't as involved a project to do signage. So these other ones, but what other ideas have people, do people have? Yes, Jenny.
I feel like the opportunity to work with an artist in a pro bono way, I don't know how to put it, is too good to pass up. Like, if we're interested in getting some kind of really cool, like, educational signage, we have different things. We're interested in the Beecology Garden. There could be something with the grassland birds. There could be something at one of the gardens on Wildflower Hill. Like, I don't know how we would have to work on, I guess, finding funding sources for the actual signage. And I don't know how you would feel about, producing an image that we could have, and then we wouldn't be able to I don't know if we would actually be able to, get a sign made by April or May, if that makes sense. Because we would have to work on finding a funding source to actually, have the sign made. But having the design, like, I don't know. I feel like it's a really great opportunity to be able to work with an artist, and then provide you with, like, maybe some of the scientific background, and have it come out like something really pretty, but that's also very educational.
I think if it's educational, and we can check in later with Melissa, but I think it falls within funding for the work we do at Breakneck Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, most of the things that have been discussed so far would fall under your stewardship line item in the budget.
And I also was going to say, like, the Willow, the Living Willow play structure. I read an article on that, that Willow, the website that sells those native willows. And I think they had kits, but they were only the native, non-native ones. None of the kits had the natives. I don't know. It's really cool idea, but I also think, like, maybe it's something that takes years to actually have it turn into a structure. I think you have to fiddle with it every year, right?
And there's problems with the, keeping invasives and other things out of it, and you can't mow around it, but that should be something on, if not for her, but on our list for looking into. What happens with the native willows they sell? They send them to you. They're like a pencil.
Yeah.
Remember that, Jim?
Yes.
We put them in the ground, and some made it and some didn't, and we're not even sure which ones did or not. So, we're hoping to start establishing more native willows, but it doesn't seem to be, besides pussy willow, they're really not that available yet. Not to say we couldn't do it with Pussy Willow, but
So the one thing that came to my mind was some funky birdhouses made from repurposed materials. It would just be fun to see those as you walked around the property. You could do some research as to what birds, what hole sizes you needed, what you wanted to attract. I mean, when I walk around trails, I'd love to see funky little things like that. So that's the only thing that I can come up with.
Great idea.
what's the status of the bluebird houses?
So that is on our Eagle Scout project that's underway. That is our next agenda item because he's approached me about fundraising. And his project is rebuilding the kiosk, installing the Kestrel box, and replacing the 6 or 7 bluebird boxes. So
we could have more bluebird boxes.
we could have more bluebird, but there's other kinds of bird boxes too. In fact, somebody recently shared, I don't know if it was on the native plant site or one of the different sites that on Facebook for the different groups that I see, someplace like in Vermont or something where it was always too buggy to walk. So somebody started putting up bird boxes to provide homes for, I forget that kind of bird that, well, I mean, a lot of birds eat a lot of mosquitoes, but that tend to use these houses in the woods. And there was a picture of through the woods, and there was literally dozens of these houses of different colors on the trees. And it was beautiful. It was like an art installation. They say, well, yeah, and now we don't have the mosquito problem. You know, in the spring, it's not so bad to walk there as it used to be. I don't know if that rings a bell for anyone, but yeah, there's different kinds of, you know, not that there's bluebird houses that, you know, tend to be in more open areas, and then things in the woods might attract a different kind of bird to go in.
Could also get some more interest in some of our woodland trails.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen boxes for like barred owls and stuff.
Yes.
But I don't know if they work, but
Oh, they do. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I
And it could be the town forest, not just Breakneck Hill then.
yes, I was gonna be sure to turn to Kat and see if she had anything to queue up for town forest on this front.
Oh,
For-
I didn't have that on my radar because I thought we were focused on Breakneck Hill. So
well, I don't know. I don't know that we need to be.
No?
It's just the first thing that comes to my mind, but shouldn't be.
well, interesting. Well, there's all sorts of things. Gosh, I wish I'd been thinking about that all along. So, you know, the interpretive signage and anything like that would be useful in the forest. I think you could get really creative with like art on the trails, like permanent installation, even if it's just one that might highlight some of the features of the forest. Yeah, I think any of those.
In the wetland system there.
Yeah, well, see, and there's the vernal pools. I don't know if, you know, we talked a little bit about, is there a certification of vernal pool? Is that something that would fit within a project to try to do something in the town forest? You know, that pops up.
Wasn't Jeff trying to see if he could certify them, Jenny? You're
I'm
muted.
Mute.
Sorry, I thought things were getting a little noisy in the background. We went out last year and we didn't see anything, and I was just thinking, wow, you know, that's in a couple of months to try to look again. But remember last year was a little weird, like with the weather.
No, but
Always.
Yeah, last year
we
was a
believe
little
you.
weird. I don't remember what it was, I don't remember what it was, if the drought was already starting, or
Dry.
that what it was. I just remember the last year was a little weird.
Yeah, it was very dry.
But even without certification, you certainly can. There's certainly lots of peepers and frog. I mean, you hear the peepers and the
The symphony.
frogs, and I know there's salamanders because I see them on the road dead. So I know, but that could be really cool and would also maybe help a little bit in our getting people to other properties besides everything just Breakneck Hill.
Right. Yeah, and we do have some other ideas later on in the agenda for some opportunities to fund it, some stuff there, but there's no reason to limit. So I'm just going to highlight the ideas that I think probably have. I'm not trying to shut down conversation, just the ones that maybe would have a lot of traction. I think building a cold frame for the Ecology Garden out of repurposed materials would
That's
be,
not that exciting though.
it's not super exciting. Useful fits.
I need it though, Kat.
Right, right. So that's one. I think the sort of trellis idea for the upper pollinator garden. I mean, that to me, that's like that feels like a smaller, like I don't know if that's substantial enough for
Right.
the requirements for your program.
Well, I was thinking that with birdhouses combined or interpretive signage for what the pollinator gardens are all about, or a brochure.
Right. I love the idea of the
Jenny, you're still muted.
Sorry, I keep muting again. Or just to, make I like the trellis thing too. Just like to somehow make it into some kind of artsy design, maybe not just like a normal arch, but something that, I don't know. I think there's room for creativity there.
Yes. And I think the funky birdhouse design, like having from repurposed materials or not, I know on a trail I walk on all the time, from Aikens Road going into Hopkinton State Park, someone has put up birdhouses along Aikens Road, and they're literally made from like hollowed out logs or something, so they look like the tree itself.
Or gourds you can do.
Or gourds, or the ones, I'll have to find that picture that I saw, because it was just little wooden ones painted fun colors, and it looked so pretty in the woods. I mean, that doesn't appeal to everyone because it's obviously introduced materials, but the funky birdhouses, which I think could be both properties, to make it substantial, Breakneck Hill and the town forest. Then
can I put something I just came up with? Are we falling into, and it's me, I do this myself, wanting to pretty up nature? I mean, funky birdhouses, I'm just saying it, they're nice, but if they're painted, and so now you're walking through the woods instead of looking at the trees and the learning how to appreciate that, you're like, oh wow, look at the shiny object, because I'm or the like some people don't like the painted rocks that you find.
I don't.
Okay, so like it's another one of those things, and it could be really cool because I love the idea, but it's also like if I was walking through the woods, would it be a distraction from what this committee really wants people to be looking at? Right. I mean, the idea of having a birdhouse is great, but I'm just throwing that out there because, I like shiny objects, but I don't need tinsel and sparkly thing. Yeah. So, but I don't need them in the woods so much. So that's just something to caution us, because I felt right. Like I love that. Go ahead, Kim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and actually when I thought funky birdhouse, it wasn't even painted. It was just plain wood, and it just had funky angles and maybe looked really cool. But to your point, I like your point, Freddie. Leaving painted rocks is like leaving trash in the forest. I'm sorry if others believe in that, but yeah. So I would hope that if we could do funky, that it would work in a natural way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are excellent points.
Kim wanted to say something.
Kim, yes.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interject, but I was just going to say, you can definitely do funky birdhouses that don't necessarily have to be painted. You can do, all natural materials. You can do reclaimed wood. I've made weird stuff before out of like plastic, where you can bend plastic in weird ways, and then you can do whole entire things, signage along with it that says like, if you're gonna make trash, like make it beautiful, kind of a thing, and saying like keep your trash out of the forest. But even if there was like, I was just thinking when you were saying keep it about the forest and keep it natural. I used to even do things in the past just kind of for like my cousins and my family, where we would make like little fairies or little characters out of like things that you would find in the forest. So you could even do, I could even do something like that for you guys, where it was kind of like, and you could do something fun at the front of the town forest to have as like a brochure or something to get people involved, even like a find the fairy scavenger hunt, so you could do little like acorn fairies all throughout the town forest, and then the kids have to go and find them, or little like I could try and use like reclaimed items from around the town forest that are just like natural items, to kind of recreate even like salamanders and frogs, and say like, and find the wetland creatures.
Not for them to pick up and take home though.
No, just that could be like basically sculptures, but they kind of look like they're grown out of trees themselves.
I like that idea.
Then you could just have them with a little plaque that says like, you found me or something, and the kids could go around and try and like scavenger hunt them or something even.
And add a little educational piece to each of those plaques, and you've got a reason to go in the town forest and learn.
Right.
I love that. Beautiful idea.
I like that one a lot.
I love that it's creative. It's like scavenger hunt, like like version 1+ or something, like it's.
And then after you've been there once and you start to, they become your friends, you want to go back and visit them. You found them, but now I want to go visit them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we had a trouble with the, the fairy house, which when we used to do Riverfest, and we used to have kids make fairy houses, and we just have like, I went so far as to, collect pine cones and then spread them around the forest so there'd be plenty for them to find to use, and, acorns and things. And then the next thing you know, it caught on, and now you go and people are making like with glitter and glitz and plastic dolls, and it's just like, oh, that's just ruined everything, so we want to stay away from that and painted rocks. So I like your idea though.
Yeah. So
can I just
resonate with, sorry.
I just wanted to say, like, I do actually really like that idea. Before you said that, I was going to say you could do something where you kind of make the birdhouse, and then instead of having it be painted in, bright and flashy, like use natural materials to kind of decorate it, so that you can't even, just so it's like kind of structurally like the right dimensions. Different species need, like the height from the hole to the floor, that kind of thing. So you could make sure you had a birdhouse that was designed right, but then it's kind of decorated with natural materials. But I also love your, making, an kind of an art, like a statue out of natural materials that looks like a salamander or, a frog or something like that. So that's also a really cool idea.
So we obviously have a lot of ideas, Ms. Berry, and do any of them particularly resonate with you?
Quite honestly, I would say the two that got me the most excited were just kind of the idea of the birdhouses, and definitely the last one I proposed, just because I think they're kind of the most potential for fun interaction as well with people eventually, which is kind of my ultimate goal, is to sort of work in outreach and engagement. But it could even, it could be one or the other, but that being said, it could even be kind of a mix of both, because I know you guys said you're really looking for birdhouses. So, it could be a few birdhouses, but then also some kind of like find creatures as well.
Finding these natural birdhouses be part of that interactive art scavenger hunt.
Exactly.
And then name that birdhouse given the dimensions. I don't know, that might be a little hard, but it'd be fun. Like, what bird would live here?
Yeah, there you go.
Or you could make a little easier than that, like a match. Have those papers where you have the bird on one side and the birdhouse on the other, which bird goes in which birdhouse. But that's not something for her. I mean, that gives, or she could, but it would be a project for us to do later. I like the idea of we're kind of now focusing more on the town forest. Are you familiar with the town forest, Kim?
I am a little bit. I've been through, I want to say maybe once or twice.
And when are the trails going to be upgraded, or is that not, Catherine, is that on a back burner or
Oh, do you mean named?
no?
Is it-
Just
what's
didn't
up?
they need some clearing to make in the map better?
So, well, no, the trails are really open. There's one new trail that we wanted to put in the spring. That was the old trail that you had identified. That's on the existing map.
Yeah.
And then any map updates, actually, I owe Dan we did the GPS last fall just to get that correct. And we were going to add that new trail. So that map update, I'm sure can come out in the next
I'm just saying
spring.
if that trail portion is going to be upgraded, it would be nice to sort of maybe even use it or some sort of a loop trail, because often we walk in the old Bay Path Lane and walk out the old Bay Path Lane, and you know, creating some reason for people to make the loop again would
Yeah.
be more, you know, people just like loops.
They do like loops. Yep. Yep.
I don't know if that will be done in her time, but we could show her where it's going to be so that she, you know, there might be potential there
If,
to draw someone in.
Ms. Berry, if we were wanting to proceed with this sort of combo birdhouse art installation-y idea, what is the next step? Would you have to write it up as a proposal to get it approved, or to us, or like what? Can you just step us through a tiny bit of that?
Yeah, so next steps kind of that I foresee, I could either do one of two things for you guys, whichever works better. I can do both. I can write up a proposal for you all to see that would kind of flush things out a little bit more and kind of give you an idea. And along with that, I can do just sort of a first draft sketch, if you will, to present to you all with that, that kind of has maybe some ideas of what things could look like. And I can kind of put in some design ideas for and picture references that would be helpful. Because if that does sound like something you guys would like, I definitely love that project. I have a real fondness for birds, so I would personally love to make a bunch of bird boxes. And yeah, and I'm just already like buzzing with ideas. When you were talking about even like doing little like cards with birds on them or something, I was thinking, oh, just why can't I just make little birds that look like they're made out of wood, and we can hide the bird somewhere too, and the kids have to find the matching bird. Or yeah, so I can easily write up like a fully fleshed out proposal of what this might look like. And the only other thing is at some point I'd love to get out and see the town forest again, but that can be further down the road.
Okay, because we'd be happy to meet you for a site walk, one or more of us who is available. We're all obviously in town. So we're happy to walk there with you. So committee members, do we feel enough here that we want to take a vote and proceed? Do you want to pause and have more discussion about it? I mean, I feel like there's some momentum and excitement about this idea.
Kim, you said you have to have like in 2 weeks something for school. Was that what you said?
Yes. So in 2 weeks' time, the week of, let me pull it back up again. The week of February 12th, I need to have basically just to be able to give my teacher a solidified, like, yes, I'm working with this external partner, like here is their, you know, organization name. That's essentially it. I don't need the proposal that I would give you guys at all for her to see until I don't think well into March. So thankfully I have kind of time to draft with you all and, you know, play around, work things out, be flexible, kind of come and go. So more than anything, it's just kind of solidifying like, yes, am I working with you all, or do I need to find, is this not going to work out? Is, the project not quite right between the two of us? And do I need to find another external partner?
Do we
you
need to
a
vote, or
letter
do we
from
need to vote, or just by consensus? Because I'd make a motion if we need to vote, but I don't think right now my comfort level is I don't need to know exactly what you're going to do. I think you're going to work with us to come up with something that we'd like, but I think we like everything that you want to do. So I don't see from all the nodding heads, you can't see mine, but it's nodding and smiling. That, what do you think? Do we need a just consensus, or do we want to vote?
I'm all right with consensus. And also I would ask, Ms. Berry, do you need any sort of, letter from the committee saying that it's our intent to work with you on your capstone project so that your professors know?
It definitely couldn't hurt. I don't need it at like a breakneck pace, to say the least. Like don't worry about it. But it definitely couldn't hurt. My teacher is definitely a stickler for things, so I'm sure if I had one, she'd be like, "This is amazing."
Yes. So we don't have to define the project, just say we are committed to working with you and
Yes.
finding a mutually agreeable project, but we're very excited about
Yeah. I can
about
do
what
that.
you propose.
Yeah, I can do that and get it to you in email so you have some record of our, and I just feel to my committee, if someone wants to make a motion, I'm happy to take a vote. I'm also comfortable with consensus, and I feel like there's excitement about this. Does anyone have any big concern they want to put in front of Ms. Berry right now?
No concern for me. I think the whole thing sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does.
Great. All right, then. So I will email you some letter that says those kinds of things and conveys our excitement. And we're so glad you're able to join us. Having you here made it a lot easier for us to envision what some of these ideas might be. Since we have so many, it's kind of exciting. So thank you. The meetings are public. You're welcome to stay on for the remainder of our agenda, or go on to your own business as you prefer. But we'll be moving on in our agenda.
So we'll invite her back to our next meeting. Let her know
Yeah,
when it
you can
is,
do that. Yep.
whether she needs to attend or not, but we'll let you know.
Right.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Are you going to be staying in town when you're done with your schooling?
At this point, it kind of seems like I might. I had applied for a few internships and I didn't really know where they would go. And so at this point I was kind of like, you know what, if I hear back from no one, because everything's kind of been up in the air because of COVID for all of us, I'm like trying to just kind of say, okay, well, I'll find my own way, whether it's, applying for a grant and starting my own business, or, starting local and kind of building from there. But who knows?
Well, it's an
Yeah.
exciting time. Sounds like a great program. So thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Our next item is the Scout fundraising inquiry. So Nathan Boy is the Scout we're working with on the kiosk and kestrels and whatnot. And he emailed me from time to time. He needs signatures. He's actually been in touch with me a lot, which is nice. And he needed some signatures, and then he asked permission to at some point have a table in the parking lot where he could talk about his project and see if he could raise some money. I didn't want to give that permission without running it by you all. Personally, I'm okay with it. I know that annually the neighbors across the street have set up a table and done some fundraising with a bake sale type thing for juvenile diabetes, and without ever asking us. And you know, they're known in the neighborhood and they walk their dog on the trails and stuff. But I recognize also that it just might not be comfortable for everyone. I don't think there's a prohibition on it, but what do you think?
So can I get clarity? Put a table in what parking lot? Oh, Breakneck Hill parking lot. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
he could talk about his project and see if he could raise some money for it.
Yeah. I think it's my initial, since I'm already talking, I'll keep going if you don't mind. I think it's a great idea, but it may not yield the result he wants, and I would want him to be successful. So I would almost encourage him to couple that with an online initiative to help if he could do that, because I think people would talk to him, but it could be tricky, I think.
I'm concerned about COVID.
Yeah.
How does he set it up so he's talking to people that they're not coming too close to him?
And you can't hear when you have a mask on, so you want to get closer and listen. And no one's really interested in doing that. I agree with you, Freddie.
I'm not against fundraising for an open space Breakneck Hill project in the parking lot. We had some Girl Scouts, I think, wanted to do or it might not have even been Girl Scouts, but they wanted to do a lemonade stand. Like, it's just not the place, I don't think, for lots of different fundraising going on. But if we have a policy for fundraising for Breakneck Hill initiatives, I don't have a problem, but I'd really want to know what he's planning to do to keep people. How do you engage people? And you know that it's not him so much as it's the other people.
Yeah.
I still see people not wearing masks. And what if a crowd came up to him and started talking to him and he's, what's he going to say? Get back?
Right. I guess would a handout be helpful? Here's a project, consider it from a distance. I don't know. I think it is tricky with COVID.
It is definitely tricky. I didn't even think about those things. I was just like, oh yeah, so I'm trying to be supportive. I told him I was going to talk about it. We would talk about it as a committee tonight, and I would circle back with him. Anyone else?
No, I agree. Like, it's just maybe not the year for it. Like, it's, a good idea and he's showing initiative, but with COVID, it does seem like difficult to, I don't know. Having a webinar might be good, but then I guess how would you follow through? I don't know. How would you actually get people to actually donate or I don't know.
People use this thing called Vimo.
Yeah, Venmo.
Venmo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like he could do something on the kiosk, like put a big black cloth over it and say, this needs to be updated, put a sign on it, something to draw attention. Or he could do some outreach and say he'll be there at a certain time and that people could drop money in the bucket when he's there. But the outreach and talking about it would have to be done beforehand or elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what
I wonder if the idea of having a table was to help keep that distance.
What about he writes an article about what he wants to do and sends it to my Southborough? Because we see people on there fundraising, for Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or whatever, different projects. So what if he wrote an article instead of, like I said, it's just not the year for in-person stuff. So he could write about why, and maybe we could even use it as an educational opportunity to, if we feed him the right information, to talk about we're trying to, attract bluebirds to nest there and reduce the mosquito populations naturally. He could write an interesting article and then also say he's fundraising, here's his Venmo or however he's doing it in the article.
I like that. We could finally have someone dress up in dog poop, in a dog poop costume that's completely covering his face, so he's protected and they're protected, and he would get a lot of attention.
Yeah, Not the right kind for this project, though. I'm not sure the connection there, but
Oh, well, no, we want people to, it could be part of our dog poop, waste campaign, like pick up your poop and, because that's going to be signage on it's not quite a link, but it's a stretch.
All right, so I will circle back to him and tell him that given COVID, we don't think that in-person fundraising is right now, but we think we're very comfortable with him putting something on the bulletin board or the existing kiosk and drawing attention to it in some way, noting that it's gonna be replaced.
the
Or
problem is, if I'm just thinking about this with the last project I worked on, is he has a project that doesn't necessarily include writing up this fundraising letter, which is information on the why, which, on some level I've expected it in the past, but it hasn't always been part of what, he's going to be the hammer and nails kind of on these projects, not necessarily so is that something we're willing to help provide him with information on to help him fundraise? And then that becomes a task for us if he's not willing. Like, what was he going to say when he reached out to people? I'm making I'm putting a kestrel box in. Well, for an article, you kind of have to say, why do we want kestrels?
right.
So when did he want to do this by?
It wasn't that precise. He needed the signature. I gave him the signature he needed, and that in that back and forth, he proposed this idea, and I said we'd get back to him after our next meeting. So that was like, I don't know, 10 days ago, maybe I heard from him. So he didn't lay out a timeline in terms of fundraising. He didn't lay out a timeline. He has a timeline for the project, which I don't have in front of me, but so he needs to raise money to get, it is part of the whole expectation for Eagle Scouts that they launch fundraising.
Yeah.
So I think he's just trying to navigate that. And
I have to step away for a minute. You have a quorum without me, but
yeah.
Harley wants me to take him outside.
Okay, Freddie.
Okay. I was just gonna say, as well, I guess it would be good if she heard it, but whatever. As far as an article, I don't think it has to be like a book. Like, a lot of the articles in my Southborough are very short. So I don't think it has to be a huge explanation, about why we're trying to attract bluebirds or kestrels. But it could be, like I said, as simple as bluebirds eat a lot of mosquitoes and we're trying to control populations of like it could be literally be an extra phrase or 2 extra sentences. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's in high school, right? He should be able to do some kind of small amount of writing.
I can suggest it, and I could tell him if he needs help, he could reach out. I think we've all had different experiences with my Southborough in terms of submitting something that's complete and finished versus and seeing it put in there as we've written it versus being edited by Beth in what and I think we've just had different experiences there, so I don't know what we can expect. I don't even know if Beth wants that kind of article.
So can I had, when I first came on, now things may have changed, but when I first started with the Trails Committee and my first interaction with Beth, I didn't know how it worked. So I reached out to her and said, hey, could I write this up, blah, blah, blah. And I was just kind of testing the waters to figure it out. And she told me, this is years ago, that it's her blog. So she writes it up. She'll accept, summaries of things, and then she'll kind of paraphrase. But if you wanted to write a letter to the editor or something like that, I think that was an option. And that would be a way to get your own message kind of paraphrased or something like that. So that's the most I know. That may help kind of steer the how you ask.
All right,
Is that consistent with what you understand, Joyce?
yeah, because I think you and I have talked about this when we worked on something together for her. So are folks comfortable if I circle back and say we're not comfortable with the in-person fundraising because of the pandemic and the risks, but here's some ideas we're giving you.
I love that. I think it's really nice to do that.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, next item, town forest. And I forgot to print out the updated agenda, but I did put the choate stuff someplace, and I only have the old agenda.
I have it and I'm back.
So the choate stuff was later, Kat, on the updated agenda.
It's on number 8, grant
Oh,
application.
okay. Thank you, Melissa. So anything on town forest to talk about tonight, Kat?
So you're saying the choate stuff is later, and this is specific town forest. So no, I don't have any additional information right now on the town forest.
Okay. Mowing, Freddie, you and I were talking about this the other day. And any updates there where we are working toward getting Twin Pines up there since we've marked where not to be mowed?
Yeah, so I got an early morning text Monday. Like, oh, you're meeting me here? So I ran right over, and they started Monday, and I think they got Tuesday in. I need to follow up on how much. I didn't have time to walk everything, but I went over with him what not to mow, and we'll see.
Well, that's great because now there's snow on the ground. So
yeah, so I think they got 2 days in. He at least got 1 day in. He started. Something got done.
well, thank you.
Is this Twin Pines, Freddie?
Yes.
Thank you.
And yeah, the gentleman, Chris, was very, very, he was, I guess he might have done a mow before. Usually it's been Matt, but he seemed to be very comfortable in knowing what he was dealing with there.
Super.
Although as I left, I did hear some, that sound of a mower hitting something.
It's a common sound.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, often they're like coming back, like, yeah, it's going to take a few more days. We got to get apart. But was there anything else? Yeah,
I think so on mowing. That's our winter mow. So
yeah, it used to be the fall mow.
hey, as long as it's before the spring mow.
Yeah.
So the next item I put down was apple trees, and Freddie, we were hoping to reconnect with the gentleman orchardist.
So I do have some information there. Okay. And this ties into a later one, but anyhow, I asked if we're going out to bid, we need to know, like, we had a estimate based on the apple trees in the area, right? But not specific numbers. We had an estimate that was for the clearing, but we have an estimate of 56 apple trees that the orchardist believes he can work on, right? So you take those out, but we don't have a number of how many trees we wanted to take out. And, we've been there a few times and, flagging. I wanted somebody who knew to count, right? And we couldn't find a date that worked together to go out. So he went out, and this is the orchardist, to look to see if he could, by eliminating which ones he could work on to save, how many there are that we're taking out. And he contacted me and he said, because he's getting it's the third time there, he's getting a better feel for the property. He believes some of the trees he originally said that, he not to bother with, that you know, over time, we could get them back into good shape, and it would be adding more trees to not be coming down, that he would start pruning, and then, you know, over time they'd get better. And in my mind, as long as these are not the trees that are in the clearing area for the, you know, increasing the grassland bird habitat, it's a good idea. It's more affordable in the short term to, believe it or not, to have him prune the trees at the price he quoted us than to take the trees out. And it's what the people, you know, the citizens, I think, would be happy to see the trees in better, you know, like, we knew there would be some pushback if we started taking out all the trees. So we're taking some out to improve the habitat, but the ones that are remaining, if we can save them, I'm all for it. And so then I was supposed to meet him again, but I couldn't because I had other things I couldn't, there were reasons I couldn't make it. So I think that's the follow-up. Meet with him again to find out how many trees are coming out, and have him start doing the pruning work. Well, I have to check with Twin Pines because we wanted the mow done before he did the pruning, right? Because you don't want all, his price is for pruning, not removing the debris. We have to get someone else to do that. And that might be, it may or may not be a bid project. Because now, when we get to it later, you'll find out why, but we might have several different projects time-wise that fit into what we want to do at for the tree removal. We want to get it done in the winter. We want those autumn olives out, definitely, because they keep spreading their proliferous seeds. But we could do sections of the property for the tree removal, and then use the picking up the branch as a separate project. So I'll end there. So we need to meet him and find out how many trees we want to come out. A new count based on his new view of how many trees he can save.
Okay, so depending when that is scheduled, obviously if it's a weekend, it's a lot easier for me, but depending when it's scheduled, I could also possibly meet him if like the last 2 weeks have been super crazy at work, but I think the next 2 are a little more reasonable.
So I'm thinking maybe this weekend, if he's available, would that work?
It might, yeah. I mean, usually like midday on Saturday can be a little bit hard for me, like 11 to 1, but other than that, I'm pretty open. So. All right, thanks, Freddie. And then anything on Beecology?
Well, yes, I have a little bit. Let me see what the well, it's not the, well, it's Beecology, it's the meadow. So which we already told you that we didn't
Right.
We didn't seed. I'm working with Nick at Small Planets pro bono, very generous of him. And we're coming up with the seed mix, but because we didn't get the winter sow in, there are some plants that do need the, you know, winter stratification, and so there'll be plugs next year. And there's the potential that some of this, it's just a potential, but it's also for the other pollinator gardens using the Beecology, adding more plants into Beecology and also onto Pollinator Hill, the Beecology plants. This winter sow that the Open Space Commission is working on, and that was what we touched briefly on at the with the talk about a cold frame. It's not really a cold frame. It's more just a frame to put the containers in so they don't blow over. You need to put this fine mesh on the bottom so moles and voles don't come up on the bottom, and then on the top to keep them out, and birds. And then, so it's different than the overall winter. So we're doing at the open space with the jugs. And this would either be in the Beecology garden or maybe a good place if it's over in the corner. We want it near water, the corner across from the Beecology meadow, because in the spring before you plant them, there is some watering that's needed. So figure you need a little shade. That's why the Beecology garden's not great, but I was talking with Emily Van Noort. Maybe we could make some sort of a little teepee over it with some of that bird cloth. And the other thing, I sent you an email just before the meeting with some pictures in it.
You want me to share my screen so people can see, Freddie? Would that
Yeah,
be?
and I'll just tell you, as you drive down Breakneck Hill Road, somebody mentioned this to me, the yellow tape around the garden area for the parking is really unattractive. Somebody asked me what the heck was going on, and just drive down Breakneck Hill Road and see what you see. It's working though. People, it's interesting. People are parking further down instead of right in front of the garden.
Good.
Even though the way the tape is, it allows you. But we had talked about doing something else. If you know Catherine, who's one of our volunteers, what's her last name? Korostoff? I say it wrong.
She helped with the Halloween hike.
She did, and she's been a great volunteer with the weeding and all of that at Breakneck Hill. She helped with the winter seed project, and we were doing seed cleaning, and I saw her dog fence. This is a I think it's portable. It just picks up. So it's certainly more attractive than, and it seems to be somewhat removable that we could do something with, so, and you could put a little gate into it. So I don't know. I didn't ask her the pricing, and it's not super sturdy, but it's not flimsy.
How does it stand up?
Is it a post?
Yeah, is there a post that goes in the ground maybe?
Yeah, it looks like there's posts in between the sections there that you drive into the ground. They're metal.
It
So
wasn't,
each piece is like you purchase as many of those, like
it was a kit, she said. I don't think it was piece by piece. And she said she put in 2 kits.
Huh.
So, and I don't know how far around it goes. She has a doggy door, and
and
she's
you
a
can
small
see-
dog.
You can see on that back. Oh,
Go back down, sorry.
yeah. See how it looks like they're different sizes,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be just the angle though.
It could be her yard slopes in the back, and she might have had that might be where she connected them. I don't know. I didn't look at it that closely. I just thought it was an interesting, more attractive solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Yep, I like it. I mean, it's nice.
I mean, we have to see if it would, the moving, if we needed it, would work.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think people will pull right up to that and knock it over, but the tape seems to have, and Jim, did you put tape around the chain that blocks going through, driving into the road where you put
Yes,
the
I
umbrella
did.
stand?
I did. I didn't want anybody tripping on that.
Somebody mentioned to me that was very helpful. It looks like braiding, so it's not quite so ugly as the other. And in that place, it really does work. Yeah, because, I've tripped on that. Usually when there's an audience.
Yeah.
Flat on my face.
I've
So,
tripped on it many times.
so that was a big success, I think. You
So
don't
I
miss
think
it now.
For this fencing to work, we'd have to paint it yellow. Just kidding.
So we could put a sign on it that says surveillance, like, you're on camera, and
Yeah.
then see if that works.
But if this interests you, I'll go further and find out what the cost. And I could have done that, but I just grabbed this picture and thought I'd show it to you. I think when I saw it, it looked interesting.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that the tape has discouraged people from parking there. We knew that was kind of a temporary solution as we would research more. This, another thing I like about this is the ease with which you could hang a sign on that kind of a fence.
Yeah.
That would be, thank you for not parking here. We're protecting these important plants. So, it would be a little educational opportunity too.
I like it.
Because it was interesting. There was, like last fall, there were days when there'd be like 5 cars and they were all crammed up there. And the day I went to the Mow, there were like 5 cars and they were all up the other end. And it was like, why aren't they down here? And it's like, oh, whatever the symbolism was, it just resonated with people. But as soon as that's gone, it won't continue to resonate. Do you know what I'm saying? It will.
Yeah.
The same people that were parking like further up will be parking right down there, because when you're going for a walk, you got to be as close as possible. As I guess 10 extra feet is too much. But anyhow, so that was that.
Great. So then is 8, I'm sorry, I don't have the most current. I know I added.
Great grant applications, including potential for choke fund.
Yes.
For town forest and Breakneck Hill.
Yes. So I know there's one update on the wildlife grant in Massachusetts.
We didn't receive it.
Which we didn't receive it.
And I'm going to follow up with more information on, what we could do better next time, what our points were. You didn't get it, you just don't want to know, but I think it would be helpful. Yeah. And what was unfortunate is I found, I had been emailing, because it was supposed to come out in early December. Mm-hmm. And I found out from Jenny Pete, you read it in a newsletter before we ever got official notice that we hadn't gotten it.
Really?
It was mailed, snail mail.
No, it was a press release.
So you got a press release. Well, whatever. It was publicly announced who got it before they let us know, days before we got the letter saying we hadn't got it. It's kind of a,
yeah.
But COVID, people are doing the best they can, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate that that's the order that things happen, but I hope you do get some feedback that's helpful to us.
And hopefully a lot of the investment can be reused in a future grant or, any number of things. Hopefully that works.
The knowledge base, once we got into trying to put it together, is that it was too big. We had like 9 sections, and each section became like its own mini grant application, because there were different, even though we had different, even though some of the techniques, management practices were the same, it was in a different section. So you had to write it up again and have a price for that section. And then that section might have a combination of things and different purposes. It just was overly complicated, which, made it more difficult to put together. Mm-hmm. So there we go.
All right. So other grants, on other grant front, we have this choke fund grant opportunity with some possibilities at Town Forest and or Breakneck Hills. So this would be jointly, as I understood it, with the Trails Committee. Kat, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I can, if I can share my screen again, let's see, screen 2. So this is, we're jumping the gun a little bit because we don't know that they're going to do it again this year, right? So say they do, and the question I have for the committee is whether we would be interested in, if Stewardship would be interested in partnering with Trails Committee and going after going after a grant of some sort to do some projects. And so I don't know if folks had an opportunity to look at some of the document I'd sent around with some ideas. It was just some talking points. And again, so I'll open it up for that. But one question I would have is, I don't know if if you get it one year, are you less likely to get it a second year because they want to be more diverse in their projects? So you folks who have maybe more experience in this would have some insight on that, and maybe how to kind of direct it, the proposal itself, to be more attractive and not just the same project they funded last year. So last year, the Trails Committee went after, we put in a proposal for some signage and fishing line recycling receptacles. So this project, I've put forward some ideas that are also signage. So if I would think that we would want to be a little more creative than just signs, but maybe what do the signs say? Maybe these signs focus on more interpretive or something, you know, to kind of make it a different project.
So I think the idea of paying for a bath is very interesting under number 3. Are we having the mutual bathing areas or something like that?
Oh, that's supposed to say Bay Path, and it was in the middle of the night. It says bath pay.
Oh, darn.
Community bathing. I think that's a great idea. We can expand that vernal pool, throw the frogs and salamanders out.
Bath pay.
That would be fun.
That, and I'm
Yeah.
usually the first to notice something like that. I'm like, oh, so we're gonna have baths? Like
Hmm.
when I was in Budapest, that was like the best part of the trip, going in the big like old school Roman baths every night.
Maybe we could get some of those old tub baths, recycle them and put them in there. I'm just making fun because it just tickled my funny bone. As everyone knows, I'm the worst person in the world with typos. Here's my question. You got the grant last year from Choate?
We did. And it,
Do you have the ability to see who they funded in the past?
so I do have an article from, so my Southborough, can you still see the screen? It just switched to Word. Okay, great. So I grabbed the article from my Southborough last year, and they had some examples of what was funded. I do not know what they funded in 2020, but in the past they did a youth rugby program in town, an outdoor chess set. I think it was at the library. You guys might remember seeing that.
Yeah.
The total grant, but the total fund is 4,500. So our grant proposal was only 1,400, so we probably wouldn't want to go after all of it, because I think their objective is to fund a few or provide a few opportunities. These are some guesses. I can't.
So it's smallish amounts.
It is small. Yep. And then other past grants here, Beth says some support for 9/11 field, clearing of walking trails, and after school field hockey program, outdoor activity area in Woodward and Finn schools, lighting improvements at the Choate facility for the baseball diamond and soccer fields in front of Woodward, things like that.
So my question for you is a little different than this. One thing I try to do is see who got the grant before, and if that's shows you the trend of whether they fund the same type of projects or the same person over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But you certainly could help that by having this be a stewardship committee as the lead and not the Trails Committee.
Okay.
And then I wonder if making it somewhat interesting, I don't know if they look for leveraging, but if this could be tied into what, I know her last name is Barry. What was her first name?
Kim.
What Kim is doing, so that it makes more excitement.
Yeah.
At
Synergy.
Town Forest. Yes, great word for what I'm trying to say in all these little words. That's my take. I think it's worth going for. I don't think it's as was it a hard?
No.
Was it a hard? It wasn't like the Wildlife Action Grant.
Oh gosh, no. It was basically a statement of purpose and a budget, and it was a two-page letter. Maybe it was 3 because my budget fell on the 3rd page, but it was very simple, put together, and we just, it was last year. It was due by the 30th of April.
The only thing with tying it into hers is that, we don't know exactly what she's doing yet, and that's only necessary if they're looking for leveraging.
Right, but But it's
And
also possible by the time this one was due, we would know a little more. And there's ways, you know, the magic of how we would say that regarding that synergy that, you know, there's all this demands on our trails with the ongoing pandemic and a new appreciation and, you know, investing in these important resources in Southborough, and here's ways to something, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and something I read was they like to focus, or some of the projects have focused on youth. So if we were, for example, to leverage Kim's artistic abilities to create some educational materials, could that be then, you know, we can have her design the pieces, and then we maybe fund some of it through this in some way. Like if we were to incorporate if the scavenger hunt were something, we could have some educational pieces that go along with that. So maybe this funds part of the actual pieces that we use for that, or
And
something.
the arrows like to the funky birdhouses.
Yeah. I mean, I
Or
love
scavenger hunt. I think it would be great.
Yeah, and I like the idea. I mean, I hear you about being concerned. It sounds the same if it's signs again, but signs for trail names that are wooden, like the pictures that you show. I mean, that's nice.
Oh, when does it have to be completed by? What if it's part of the new, what if it's tied into the interactive, getting people out to walk the trails? You know, it's a portion of the project and engaging people.
Yep.
And then they can see the outcome of that.
Yeah, I think so. There wasn't really timeline requirements or information they shared. So we wrapped up our project, I want to say in August or early September. So I'm gonna, you know, I think you'd want to, my guess would be the year. They would probably, you know, want to see something within a year, and, you know, have it closed out. But I guess that's information we could ask.
So if it's not due till like hopefully April 30th, yeah, so I was also going to say, like, we should know more about her project, but maybe we can kind of frame it as, you know, that there's been a lot of demand, you know, for access to natural space. We're trying to get people excited about using another property in town. And we have these initiatives going on, you know, working with Kim on her project, which hopefully we could, you know, say something about it. Maybe we could even potentially have the, you know how you said to have the trail naming like walk? Like if you have that in early April or mid-April, like, you know, you could leave it as a placeholder and kind of slip it in at the, you know, at the last minute or whatever, right before you submit. But maybe you could even say, and we have this initiative to name the trails, and we just held this event, you know, to get people out on the trails and participate in a town-wide naming contest, voting scheme or whatever. And we're, you know, looking for funds to, you know, create the signage and I don't know, educational stuff also, or just the naming.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Builds
Like
momentum.
that we're trying to, like you said, like leveraging and tying in all these things. So it's sort of like where it's like a matching funds kind of thing, only it's, you know, volunteer time and, you know, other volunteer effort.
Yeah. Yep.
In-kind volunteer time.
Right. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's worth going for. I feel like we have a lot of fun things kind of.
We have anyone doing that bridge redo? It's a gully.
In the town forest?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that currently has either a
Plywood.
piece of plywood. Yeah, no, not yet.
I think we have that earmarked for the next Eagle Scout.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, why couldn't this be part of it?
Oh.
You know, we don't have to wait for Eagle Scouts to show up to do work when there's another grant coming up.
Right. So buy the lumber to build that, you mean, and build it ourselves?
No, find a volunteer.
Or
Or-
find a volunteer, or couldn't the grant be used to hire somebody to do it?
They might say, why aren't you using a Eagle Scout?
And actually, given the skill sets of the room, it might be better use of funds if we focused on supplies and such, and then let labor be something that we do find volunteers on, and we can, because money is so short that, you know, I could build something.
Oh,
Kat, do you have any idea how much it costs to get nice signs made, nice wooden signs made,
So
with trail names? And obviously we would need quite a few of them, right?
right. So I do not have a quote for us yet because I wanted to chat with us, but I did look up quickly, and on Etsy you can see my cursor or my hand. It looked like you could buy little trail signs for $35 and wooden signs, for example. And I was hoping to go with a natural, and stay away from plastic, right? So something natural. So it looked like you could do something for pretty inexpensive, but obviously I'd want a quote. And then
How many,
yeah.
sorry, like how many do you think that we need? Because there's like the name of the trail, but then do you need little markers along the way?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you actually need markers with the size of the town forest and the way.
Never seen somebody come running up to me like, help, where am I?
Yeah.
How do I get out of here?
I think it's small enough that if you put if you had the signs and you put maybe just like this little post has a sign here, you could put one of those in the middle of the forest. If someone got lost, they would have a point where they could get unlost, right? A reference point. So, and I do want to be sensitive to sign pollution, we could put up lots of different decals, but I think keeping it as natural as possible would be helpful. So maybe I'm going to throw out like maybe 5. That might be a number. So it's not a ton of signs that we would need.
When you say trail though, for $30-something, like if we're talking about naming the trails, then they'll have an added cost to put the name of the trail on the sign.
Yeah, so that was like order your trail signs here at Etsy, for example, $35. We'll etch it into a wooden piece. But I can get quotes for us to get a better sense of what that would cost. I think not that I'm not looking for a nicer sign like we put up for the kiosks. We had our sign guy that did the town forest. He does a lot of woodworking. So I had him in mind for maybe some quotes, but this Southborough Trails, it's just natural. It's like a stained wood sign. So that size there was, I think, $240. And
where is that?
These signs?
No, where's that kiosk?
This kiosk, this happens to be at Fayetteville Park.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have one at Fayetteville Park, one at Route 30 and White Bagley. We have one at Route 85 and one on the intersection of Route 30 and Old Northborough Road. So
I saw somebody at the one at Route 30 in
it?
White Bagley, and it also looked like, contrary to what I had been led to think, that it looks like somebody put some like parking material down on the grass.
On White Bagley, or
yeah.
There
was a car parked there.
Oh, there's always cars parked there. It's not technically a parking spot, although I always park there, and a lot of fishermen will park there.
But
it's really park
like
at
there
your
was
own risk.
It looked like stone dust or something had been laid down that would encourage parking. But anyhow, it was interesting if somebody was there reading the sign. So that's good job.
I've jumped on. I've seen that a few times, and it's just such a
thrill.
It's fun. It's when they're really getting used. But so anyway, I wasn't thinking of a stain sign for the forest or anything more of a natural thing. But I did want to say, with the kiosk at Breakneck Hill, is there any interest in having a nicer sign on the kiosk? That might be something that this could also fund. A Breakneck Hill conservation land, and it could be rustic, so it matches the kiosk, or painted if you wanted it to be painted, and so something like that.
That would be important to know before he does his design, that there's room, because to do Breakneck Hill Conservation Land, I think you need 2 depths, not just one, to make it, you know, you don't want it to be tiny to go across the whole top.
Yeah.
What does this one say on the kiosk?
It said Southborough Trails. It's that the sign I'm holding here. Let me see if I
Right.
can make it bigger.
So if you see, think of that, but you couldn't, if you tried to put on the same size,
Yeah.
Breakneck Hill, you'd need 2. So he needs to design his kiosk so that would fit without covering up the, but I like that idea.
Yeah. I think that we have a lot of things that could end up in that grant. So I guess now is like, we're keeping an eye on when they post it.
Yeah.
I would say that focusing on the town forest is the way to go. But getting a name, seeing as we're putting the kiosk up at Breakneck Hill, you know, at the same time, that would be one thing to add, but
Kat,
So,
do you,
yes.
do you know off the top of your head, like, did you look up a price, this one, well, it's all zoomed in now, but this Vernal Pool sign that was at the bottom?
Yeah, this one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the one that's off of Woodland Road between, you know, when you get off of Breakneck Hill, you know, and so I was thinking we could rehab this one, for example,
Okay.
if
It's
we
too-
wanted to.
do you remember who the Eagle Scout was, if we had any plans? Because didn't he also do, or was it a different project, the wetland replication area over at the road, and the wood broke and it fell down and I couldn't bring it home with me. And when I went back to get it, the wood was still there, but someone had stolen the sign. It was a very nicely done sign.
Was it the Kerber kid?
I'm not sure if it was him, but the same person did all of them. Yeah.
It would just be nice to get a hold of that. The sign was nice. I think it had a red-winged blackbird on it. And if we, you know, didn't have to redo the whole thing, but to get that sign and get a new one made up. Would we have had plans of it in our?
I was just thinking that because I have minutes and stuff going way, way back, but I was not chair when that happened. I suspect maybe one of the early chair. Who was the earliest chair?
Lori Borden.
It may have been under her leadership. It was so long ago.
Was it under your leadership, Jim? Because you were second chair, weren't you?
You know, I remember the signs, and I remember working with the scout, and he gave me the name of the company, and I'm thinking maybe I can look back in my notes and find that. But I was impressed with the quality of the signs, and they've really held up nicely.
They have.
And maybe this sign is just needs a little cleaning. Maybe it's fine. It just needs to be reapplied to the wooden structure, or the wooden structure may need a.
Yeah, the wooden structure, it seems like the facing wood is like maybe plywood and the different layers are falling apart, or.
Yeah, he had plastic over top of that. There was a box and then plastic, and I don't know where that went, but somebody took it, and or it fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been there for many years, so it's really been very.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's held up, especially in a wet, damp, dank
So,
area.
Kat, what else do we need to do now to be thinking about this, or to
So-
be ready?
Yeah. So really, just one more question for the way I was going to tie in Southborough Trails Committee is that we want to focus this year on educating or having more educational materials on dog waste, similar to what Breakneck Hill, you know, has talked about. But because we're in a watershed, you know, people are very comfortable walking dogs along the trails and such, but we don't really have a lot of signage as to why that's not allowed by DCR. It's not to be punitive, but it's really because it's a backup water supply. So we thought that we could do more activity around just putting up good signage for that type of stuff. So that's how I was hoping to tie in the Trails Committee, but also wanted to check with you because I know that's an issue with Breakneck Hill. Is, you know, could we incorporate some aspect of that where we get kind of a nice trail sign, you know, that says some educational information. It's a little bit of a different message because we allow dogs on Breakneck and not so much on the others. So, but is there an opportunity there? And I know we don't want to necessarily give out doggy bags, But is that something, now that we have a trash can, do we want to do that, or is that just a stay away from? So I just wanted to get the temperature of the committee. But to answer Jenny's question, there's really nothing to do yet. If I can go get some quotes and start to pull together some information, so this isn't a last minute crunch, which I'd be so happy with myself if I could actually pull off. And we could be just better positioned for a conversation moving forward.
So I guess what I'm not comfortable with is signage all over the trails on Breakneck Hill about
Oh no.
dog waste, but I don't think any of us want that. But a nice looking sign at either trailhead, I'm totally in favor of.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm not a fan of putting signs everywhere on the trail itself.
I just felt obligated to say it, but
Thank you.
as one sign at each trailhead, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time and your ideas, and I'll continue to build on this and get some quotes and stuff and see what we can do.
Yeah, I like the idea of a dog waste sign that's attractive for both, you know, if you're going to do something at Breakneck Hill, but also at the town forest too. Why wouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, my goal would be to get more usage over there, and
Yeah.
with more usage, more dogs, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Thank you.
I think the last agenda item was to revisit our rules. So we do now have some, thanks to Kat, some nice signs up that do call out the things like drones and rockets. And then the link to the stewardship page actually links to the management plan, where the list inside the management plan, which is, you know, a little bit out of date, is not quite as aligned. And I'll just, though we're very clear about, oh my God, I just see a typo in the management plan.
I hate
You know
that.
what I'm talking about? You're laughing.
No, I laugh because I laugh at my typos now. It's funny. It
No,
used
but
to be
this is in our
funny.
management plan that's been out forever, and it's a misspelling of public.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. So we need to work on that. But anyway, we do make clear about passive recreational use and staying on the trails. But that when snow conditions allow, cross-country skiing is off trail is fine. But here's the unauthorized and prohibited activities that include
And snowshoeing.
But yep, snowshoeing's allowed. Unauthorized uses and prohibited activities include, but are not limited to, off-trail uses without snow cover, motorized vehicles, horses, fires, alcohol consumption, dumping, removal of vegetation, wood, soil, animals, and the like. So those are what are highlighted from there. So when you think about the sign we just made, which also was not comprehensive, it calls out drones and rockets, and then also some of these same things. So I think it'd be nice to have, and I don't know if this is within Melissa's power to do, just a separate place on our stewardship landing page that just clearly is a little bit more of a comprehensive list that does include the drones and the rockets.
I thought you said drums. Drones, yeah. I think so, but I think it also needs to be on the Conservation Commission's page, because that's what the gentleman who was lighting the rockets said he went and it wasn't there. But I think we need to go through the list and everyone think about it and come back and make a final one, not just tonight.
Oh, okay. So I draw your attention to that's where it is. Because I was poking around tonight saying.
Can you say again where it is?
Can you send a link?
Yes.
Or an email?
Yes, but if you also have your notebooks, remember these notebooks?
Yes.
It's just a couple pages in on the management plan.
And maybe this is something we want to look at the new management plan when we review that.
Yeah. So I did not include that on tonight's agenda because I knew we had a lot going on, and I just thought we could postpone it a tiny bit before I queued that up for a meeting. So it's page 5 in our management plan. There's a link to the management plan on the Stewardship website. And so if everyone looks, and then also the copy of the yellow sign is also on our Stewardship site. And you can see the lists, they're definitely similar, but they're not entirely the same. And so we might just want to have a very obvious singular list, and I will put that, Jenny, make sure I don't lose track of it like I did this time, on our next agenda.
Make sure it has like a date it's updated on it as of.
Oh yeah, version.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And that we also send it to conservation and ask it to be placed there. But, and I don't know how you address this, but put that, with written permission. You don't want to get too in depth, but I don't want to see someone like Dr. Jagir confronted by someone who was told to stay on the trails because he's doing scientific, and how do we,
Yes. That's easy language to finesse, and that's a good point for us to remember, because we don't want people that, that we support being off trail to be harassed.
Or to say that it's okay, I saw other people doing it, was like, let them know that we are doing science research and that they have permission.
Yeah. Jim?
The other thing I don't see anywhere are the hours. It was pretty clear the very first time we did this that we didn't want people there after dark.
It was kind of a dawn to dusk, right?
Yeah, and initially when this land was first set up and the trails were put there, we had a chronic problem with parties up there at night, particularly back behind my house here. And that's when we put the signs up.
Has that been a problem lately?
No, not at all.
Nice.
Some of that is dependent on the age of the people living in the abutting homes, I think.
Right.
And I was up on the, the quarry.
Yeah.
If you walk up to the top and then you look over to the homes and back down to Breakneck Hill, there's something going on. You might just want to notice it when you're there. It looked like a trail was raked out, but for what purpose? I don't know. I didn't see quite evidence of motorized vehicles. It would be a hell of a sledding route, but I'm not quite sure. So there's something there.
Freddie, I saw that also. It looks like somebody made a trail just to get to the top of the hill quicker. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's just in the area where we had that. There's some teepee stuff over and back there, and that doesn't seem to be as bad. But was it 2 years ago we had the fire? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's
the dirt was burning. I mean,
yeah.
It was not good. So, but aside from that, I haven't seen any. There was a little plaster of Paris angel, like a token that was being moved around to these different little party. Like that's what on some level that's what you want, kids out in nature enjoying it and doing something. But I haven't seen any, aside from that fire, I haven't seen any negative impact from maybe nighttime use.
Right.
Can I ask one clarifying question? I think this will be easy. So I'm trying to understand the Beecology Garden. Is that a stewardship initiative, Or is it a open space initiative that happens to be on Breakneck Hill, or are there like synergies? I was just trying to understand, like when describing what the stewardship committee does, does one include all the pollinator gardens and the beecology as part of stewardship, or is there just overlap and we support the open space? How does that work? I'm just trying to understand how I describe certain activities that aren't, I don't want to overstep and describe open space activities if that's what they are. And there might not be a really clear answer because there's a lot of synergies.
Can I answer what I think it is?
Please.
The Open Space Preservation Commission has been working with Dr. G. Gear, and it's beyond just Breakneck Hill.
Okay.
So we kind of are the part, we're kind of the lead on working with Dr. G. Gear. However, the majority of the project base has been at Breakneck Hill, and all of the Breakneck Hill projects are really the stewardship committee. The pollinator gardens, those are all stewardship committee. The Beecology Research Garden is stewardship. The meadow is stewardship. So I don't know how you really separate it.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Is it? So, as we become more other places, we're going to get what we're calling these other gardens in town are pollination preservation gardens or habitat. And we have one planned there's a section at the golf course when we get rid of the Japanese knotweed. We have one going in at the library, and now a new partnership between the Open Space Commission and the South Propan Land Foundation. So that will expand the whole relationship with Dr. G. Gear. We've also sponsored him to give library talks. And you remember that original, the Beecology training? And I'm hoping the Winter Sow project was an Open Space Commission project, but we couldn't have done it without the plants that are at Breakneck Hill for the stewardship, through the stewardship. So there's a lot of, I'm doing that with my fingers right now, Joyce. As I'm talking, I'm weaving them in.
We're having a mind meld.
Yeah. So it's like, there's a lot of that, which is good. And I don't think it's been an issue yet. Not for me, but if we need things better defined, we can. But I think any of the sort of like the idea stuff is the Open Space Commission, and the nuts and bolts and the hard, the shovel in the ground at Breakneck Hill is stewardship.
Yeah, so the reason I asked, there's a woman I met over the weekend. She's on the tree committee in Arlington, and she's interested in pollinator gardens and learning more about that. So I wanted to introduce her to you, Freddie. And as I was describing the projects that stewardship works on, I was realizing, well, some of this could be open space. I'm just really not sure how to, and it doesn't matter that it has to be separated, but I don't work on open space, so I don't want to so that's how this came about. So I'll send her your information if you're open to that, Freddie. But
I'm working with people in Arlington already, so I'm not sure. She must know some of the I just don't know who's who. It gets to be too much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, the like all of the pollinator gardens at Breakneck Hill are the stewardship committees.
Yeah.
The Beecology Research. All of the research that's been done at Breakneck Hill, wouldn't have happened without the stewardship committee,
Thanks.
So, any other business before the committee tonight? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn at 8:27.
Second?
I second the motion.
And all in favor, Kat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Freddie,
She's
Harley
muted.
says yes too.
Okay.
I said yes if I was muted, but Harley's saying yes.
and I say yes. So the motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Melissa.
Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Melissa, bye-bye.
Anytime.